any case, welcome everybody to this new cohort of the Transformative Media class. We're actually thrilled to have you all here. Some of you have been here before, so you'll be the old experts at this. Gina took the class the first time, and she's now the community host. Say hi, Gina. I think you've all met Gina.
Hey,
Hi
Gina.
there.
Gina with the
Hi,
scarf.
Dave.
So Gina's
Hi,
a
Jeremy.
good person to talk to if you have questions about the content, anything like that. She's the community host. She'll also be kind of greasing the wheels and responding to people. And so you'll talk to her a lot on the Slack platform and other things. And then we also have Giselle. Say hi, Giselle. Giselle is the TA here. So if you have any technical issues with your platform or with your registration or anything, you can go through Giselle and you'll get lots of communications from her about classes as they come up. Giselle is in South Africa and has lousy internet, so she might be turning off her camera. So just to let you know, so it's not because she's antisocial, it's just because she wants to be able to stay on here. She's also going to be doing all the notes in the chat. So I'm going to send you guys out a chat log after every class. And that chat log acts like time code for the, here, we're admitting a few more people. The chat log acts like time code for the whole session. So you can kind of say, oh yeah, they talked about X, Y, or Z. You can look through the chat code, where was that? And that's got the time. And then, you know, where in the video you can look. So it's a handy thing to have for that, as well as just kind of a nice everything. Welcome to the people who've just joined us. It's the first class. I was just introducing Gina and Giselle, and of course our the man of the hour, Mark Allen Kaplan, who's at the top there. And he's going to talk a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to have Gina go around and just have everyone introduce themselves so we can kind of get an idea of who's here.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi. Just a sort of a quick round robin here. And I'm going to start in direction of how I can see you, just your name and where you are. This is really a quick intro for this evening, so we can get into the meat of things. Moving to you, Eric.
Yeah, my name is Eric Rassman. I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay, thanks. Blake.
Hi, yeah. My name is Blake. I'm here in Toronto, Canada.
Dave.
Hello.
No? Okay, yeah.
Sorry, getting used to the buttons. I'm Dave, and I am in South Africa, in Kempton Park, which is close to Johannesburg.
Egbert.
Hi, I'm Egbert, pronounced Edward also if you want, and I'm in Munich in Germany.
Hi, welcome. Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Johnston, and I am based in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Andrea.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Kutza. I'm based in Cape Town here in South Africa.
Tom.
My name is Tom. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the land of enchantment.
Jimmy.
Peace, I'm Jimmy Lucero. I'm in Southern Colorado in the States.
Welcome. Lynn.
So I'm Lynn Boucher. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I'm currently up at Lake Tahoe where it's snowing. So that's where I am.
Right. Yeah. Super. Tapiwa, I hope you're doing okay joining us.
Sorry, yes, I am. I'm just trying to figure out why my video isn't turning on, but yeah, I'm here.
Where are you?
I am in Zimbabwe, in Harare.
Good. Welcome. Hendrik. You're on mute.
Hi there. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden.
Welcome. Anna.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm British, but I'm currently based in the National Forest in Boulder, Colorado.
Good. And Alex.
Yes, hi there. Sorry, I just didn't get the link. I'm Alex. I'm based in London. And I apologize because I'm eating supper at the same time. It's been a long day.
Bon appetit.
Sorry, it won't look very nice.
That's us. That's us. I hand it back to Jonathan.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. It's great. We have people from all over the place, which is kind of fun for this first class. So Mark is going to start off with a lecture, kind of giving you the lay of the land. I think a lot of you know this class is designed not only to hip you to how media can be used to transform consciousness in yourself and in other individuals and in society at large at scale, but also how this class is designed to help you upgrade your own perceptual operating system. And so Mark is going to outline how this does that, and even how the structure of the class is designed to be an induction of sorts to kind of reinforce all the different levels of consciousness that we're working with. So let me give this to you, Mark. If you do have any questions, by the way, you can either raise your hand on Zoom using that hand raise, or you can post them in the chat log. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat log. So we'll either Gina or I will try to like, hey, someone's got a question. But keep in mind, of course, a lot of the things that Mark is introducing are going to be unpacked in more depth later in the class. So a lot of those we're just going to kind of skim over, kind of give you the brief overview. So let me turn it over to you, Mark.
All right, thank you everybody and welcome. First of all, I want to say that I know that some of us here are registered for the course and some aren't, because we've all opened this up. So it's totally cool. We did the fast check-in because of that, you know, and Friday we'll have the more in-depth process for the collective field. And also I always like to start with that I stutter. So, and actually it's my superpower. That's why I'm here. So at the age of 3, I started to stutter. I couldn't really speak that well. So I sought for ways of speaking in other ways. Art, you know, sculpting. I went through all the arts and finally discovered film and found my voice and studied it. And I went into film. I went to Hollywood and the film schools and I did all that. And really it was, I didn't go into film for a career or for even an art form. I went in as my voice. So I was kind of obsessed with discovering how it speaks to us. So in a sense, I've been researching this since I was 3. So, you know, how do we communicate beyond just the voice? And especially visually. So that's kind of where all this came from. So, you know, as probably in my 20s when I was at USC, I recognized that. Before that, I was haunted by it as a handicap. But I took an anthropology class from a famous anthropologist who was doing personal anthropology, you know, looking at our own lives as if we're an anthropologist, kind of studying it. And she told me that stuttering was in the shamanic traditions, stuttering was perceived as a call to become a shaman. And that's when I was first introduced with being a media shaman. She called me that, and she had a shaman come in from the Hayoka tribe and went through a ceremony, and I've studied with other shamans. So this was kind of like my, you know, sort of trying to express and heal myself and others through media. So this has been the journey, and this I'm sharing with you. And I'll unpack some more of the foundations here. But as Jonathan said, yes, this is about learning how to transform others through media. But to do that, we have to transform ourselves. We can't try to change other people unless we have the change ourselves. You can't give someone what you don't have. And that's kind of the essence of what a shaman does, is they're called to heal themselves. And through that healing, they have the power to heal. So this path is not just about what you're trying to do for the world. You know, the power comes in when it's healing of self, other, and world. So that's kind of the foundation here. So this is all about helping you transform your consciousness into that kind of agent of change. So before we begin the what I do in these lectures, which is once a week is the lecture, and it's not quite a lecture. What I try to do is I'm going to try to give you a download, and hopefully some of it's going to stretch your own perceptual field. And I just want you to be aware of that, and kind of like, you know, instead of just holding it as information coming at you, also try to be aware of which parts of the information are easy for you to understand and which parts kind of like stretch your capacity. So, and that's kind of, you know, working with your own perceptual field is the foundation here. What we discovered in our research is masters in all arts and even innovators and scientists, the great ones, the ones that move the needle, all have a more expanded and deeper perceptual field than the norm around them. Because then they could reveal to us things that we, you know, that are just on the edge of our understanding, but we haven't gone there yet. So everyone, you know, from Michelangelo to Steve Jobs, you know, and Elon Musk, they have a certain kind of capacity. They're seeing things in a deeper, more expanded way. So that's kind of the goal here, is to make your own perceptual field an object in your awareness. And that automatically starts to expand it. Because as Robert Kagan from Harvard discovered, that we kind of shift stages of development when the current stage we're in becomes an object in our awareness. So it's like a fish in the ocean. Before they understand that they're in an ocean, they're inside of it. And they don't understand that, you know, they're inside of this kind of frame. But once they realize they're in the ocean, then everything they were perceiving before is no longer kind of holding them, you know, outside of their own field, and then it starts to change. So that's kind of the goal everyone we're doing. And what I'm doing here is introducing you to how the course does that. And if you're a teacher, you'll be able to use these methodologies as well. And when we get to the module on design, we'll start unpacking how to do that, how to apply it to a website, how to, you know, a film, a video game. So, all right, so I'm going to begin with what we do is we call these perception practices. It's a little different from meditation practices. Meditation practices are involved, it's working with your states of consciousness. And in integral theory, they call it waking up. So it works with the states, but perception practices works with your structure of consciousness. And the structure of consciousness is the ocean. It's the boundaries of the ocean of your consciousness, your perceptual field. And the states are the waves. and the winds and the shifting elements within that container. And you need both to wake up. But we focus on the perception practices here because the goal here is for you to awaken to and begin to expand your perceptual field so that you can transform yourself and others in the world. So you could have your eyes open or closed. And it all depends on what is the best way for you to visualize something. And some people find it easier with their eyes open. And these could be done really quickly. They could be done in a cave or in the middle of a wild situation. And you could do them fast. So get in a comfortable position. Eyes open or closed. And I want you to bring your awareness to your thoughts. Just observing them. And I want you to try now to hold that awareness and deepen it to include your feelings, your emotional field right now. And see if you could hold both of those in your awareness and deepen it into also feeling your inner body sensations, your gut, your inner sensations inside your body. Now try to hold all that while you expand further to the sensations of your body, exterior. And try to extend that even further to the surfaces that are touching your body, your clothes, the seat you're in, the floor. Now with eyes open or closed, try to bring your awareness to the objects around you in your space. Now, if you could bring your awareness out even further to include the technology that is capturing your image right now. And your sounds. And imagine how that technology is taking your image and sound and translating it into bits of information and transmitting your bits of beingness out across wires or wirelessly, out into the collective field of the internet, and how your bits of beingness are being sent around the planet, mixed in with the bits of beingness of other beings. and then how those bits of beingness are being reconstituted in each of our systems and shared with us. And now, if you will, open your eyes, if your eyes are closed, and feel into this relational field that is being created with us right now. So now I want you to think about just for a moment, if I had asked you at the beginning of their practice to describe in a story form what was happening in the class at that moment, and then asked you to describe what was happening in this moment, after you went through that process, most likely your understanding of what's going on right now has shifted in a slightly different way. So that's an example of a perception practice where you're expanding and deepening your perceptual field of what is actually here. And we'll go into what these are later. We've gone through the 3 brains and the 4 quadrants, which we will talk about later. And this could be applied to any situation that you're in. And if you're trying to create a film or an idea, you know, this is a great way to kind of start playing with it. These are the 4 quadrants right now, but let's wait on that. Let's go to the slideshow and begin our deep dive. So again, I'm going to attempt to download all of this for you. If you're lost or you really need some kind of, you know, kind of like explanation of what's going on, put it in the chat log or wave your hand. If you have a deeper question, just put it in the chat log. And what we're going to do is in Slack, we're going to be posting the video and this slideshow for you. And we'll have a stream there where we can continue to talk about all this. So, next slide. So, first of all, what do we mean by transformative media? Next slide. All right, so when people use that word, that phrase, transformative media, they tend to be talking about roughly 6 different definitions or ways of doing it. And they are consciousness opening or awakening, let's say. And that is those inspirational works, works that try to give you a higher state experience, an altered state experience. Then there's consciousness raising, which is trying to raise awareness around an issue or a situation. Then there is individual transformation. You're trying to do something to affect individual psychological or behavioral change. Then there's collective transformation. You're trying to make a transformation of a culture or a society. Then there's evolutionary transformation or growth, which is you're trying to help people evolve through stages of development. And then there's the media shaman approach, which is this kind of synthesis of self-healing, individual and collective healing. And it's what we've done in research-wise, it's all of these are possible. We've had, there's been success in all these realms. My experience in my 40, 50 years has been that the media shaman approach is usually the most transformative to the widest field. And a key to that is that when we include our self-healing and we kind of are working on ourselves through the process, it tends to be more universal. When we're trying to make something to change the world, it's not as effective as if I am doing something for my own healing and sharing that with others, and hopefully that'll help. What that does, strangely enough, and I got this from Sam Shepard, the actor and the playwright, is when you share a human truth, it's the most universal language you can speak, because we're all human. And even though your experience is unique, your humanness isn't. And people can feel that. Next slide. And we'll be unpacking all of this later. So just giving you the overview. And of course, how we translate what we're doing in these forms, we tend to operate in kind of these 5 realms, which is we're doing an experiential piece where it's all about creating an experience. We do informational, where we're trying to share knowledge and wisdom. Fiction, which, we're creating a story to kind of communicate. Then there's experimental, you're trying to play the edge and experiment with the further reaches of communication while you're doing it. And then there's the hybrids. So you could mix and match these. And they tend to be, depending on the work, you can increase its potency and power by really kind of playing with it and really kind of combining. But you have to look at the work, look at the thing, and trying to decide what your intention is, who your target is. And that'll help you kind of form what kind of best way feels right to communicate. And of course, we'll go into that later. Next. Just to unpack real quick, what is a media shaman? A media shaman uses media as medicine. So in primal cultures, nature was kind of their realm. It's like food and planting and the forest or whatever, and their environment. And they looked, a shaman takes their environment and seeks what it has as medicine for themselves and others. So in our world, media is kind of like a foundation of how we express to each other. So that is our medicine. And I said before, a media shaman seeks healing of self, other, and world. We strive to expand our perceptual field, to seek the bigger picture, also to understand the impact of media and how to use that. And we're seeking to be the change, because that's the most potency for change. And we seek to affect change at the causal level. So once again, if you have an expanded perceptual field, you see the bigger picture, then you could actually much easier discern where's the causal level. And then we act as a bridge between worlds. That's one of the things that the shaman does. And for us, one of the ways we do that is we act as a bridge between structures of consciousness, worldviews, and all of these kind of areas to help people kind of see where they are and how to heal and move forward and transform. Next. Now, the media shaman approach has some unique ways of enactment, call them. And believe it or not, these have all been kind of tested with my research. And we'll go into that in a few minutes. So the foundation is our conscious intention and effort, unifying our intention. So one of the things we do is we really kind of upfront, and I think in module 2, we go into really getting to what your intentional field is. And great artists also, they automatically have this. They do this. They kind of like, before they create, they kind of anchor in to an intentional field. And so anything that comes up for them in the process, they filter it through the intentional field. Is this in sync with the intentional field? Then we have these other forms. So one of them is the personal vision quest. That is looking at your own self and looking for a wound or a primal wound and using media as your vision quest for healing. Then there is the holy media encounter. When we're interviewing people, when we're working with actors, when we're working with our crew, we've found that when a creator enters an I-thou field, it has profound impact both on the experience of others and it's observable from the outside, both in people watching your creative process and in the final material. Again, I can unpack that further when we go in. Then there is collective intelligence creation. So if we're working with a community, how do we kind of create a shared intentional field within our community and work as a collective intelligence team? Now, we're not talking about a traditional kind of cast crew. We're talking about how to create a community that learns and creates. And the ideas actually emerge from the field itself. And there's a lot of power in that. And then the final one is co-creating with the universe. And this is actually one of the most powerful ones that I've ever worked with. And it's really, really fascinating and observable when you set the intention of co-creating with the universe. And what I mean by that is, for example, a real simple one, real quick, is when we're in filmmaking, they have this term called, and in other professions too, Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. Well, from this perspective, it's Murphy's message. If you look at things that kind of get in your way, if you take it as the universe is nudging you in a different direction, amazing things happen. All right, let's go on. And again, we'll unpack this further.
I was going to say this is a little bit related to the concept of pronoia, which is the opposite of paranoia, which is you think everyone is out to get you, but pronoia is that feeling that everything is out to help you. And when you co-create with the universe, you can get that sort of pronoia feel where suddenly everything begins to come together almost in a magical way to make your project happen because the universe wants it to happen. At least that's the feeling. You can tell me if I've got that right.
Absolutely. Okay, next. All right, so the structure of this class. It's all designed to be part of this perceptual field training. So next slide. So the foundation of what you're going to be learning here comes from different theories and many different theorists. This is not just integral theory or spiral dynamics. Combining media expression. I've been trained in the media expression, the oral tradition. Lineage goes back to Sergei Eisenstein, who was a Russian film theorist and filmmaker in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, who invented propaganda filmmaking and montage editing. And this has been handed down through generations. There are some books now that are beginning to describe it, and we'll give you some references to those. But anyways, so the theories are media expression, integral theory, spiral dynamics, complex thought, collective intelligence, and meta-modernism. You could look all those up. And the theorists in the media sphere, we've got Germaine Dulac, who actually called what she did integral cinema back in the 20s. And her writings and her works are hauntingly connected to integral theory itself. Then there's Sergei Eisenstein, who then passed it down to Slavko Vorkovich and Lester Novros and Bruce Bloch. We also work with the work of Andrei Tarkovsky, a more recent Russian filmmaker, and Rudolf Arnheim and his work on art and perception, and Marshall McLuhan. And there's other theorists, but these are kind of the major ones. And meta theory, this work includes the work of Sri Aurobindo, J. Gebser, Edgar Morin, Claire Graves, Don Beck, Ken Wilber. Our guiding light here at Campus Co-Evolve, George Poor, who's a pioneer in collective intelligence, and Hansi Freinach, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, who's actually two people. Anyways, and there's other theories too, but so let's go on. Okay, so my work, just checking the time, because I tend to lose track of time, so I go off into outer space sometimes. So a lot of this work has actually been tested and researched in the field and in institutions. As I said, my work began when I was 3, but officially when I discovered film, that was about 45 years ago. And I basically, because as I said, that I went to it as learning a language instead of a career or an art. I basically, anytime I learned a theory, I tried to put it in practice and experiment with it. And so I've done that for over 40 years, independently, but also when I also I was part of a research team at a Microsoft media think tank in the 90s. where we explored the connection between consciousness and media, which was very cool. Then I discovered integral theory and started to apply that and experiment with that, support from the Integral Institute. And I went through the training at Fielding Graduate University for it. Then, with the support of the San Francisco Film Society, I kind of did a meta-analysis of the coevolution of media, consciousness, culture, and society from 1878 to the present. And with that research, I was able to develop integral transformative evolutionary approach to media creation and reception. And then I worked with the University of Chicago and the University of Illinois at Chicago to put that, that approach into a actual study. We're in phase 3 of the clinical trials, and it's been very successful. This research was, can we use a media intervention to help teens at risk of depression and suicide? And it's been very successful. And then now I'm taking all that and sharing it with you in this course. Next. All right, so the course is intentional field. And this is what's been driving us lately, what's driving me lately, is recognizing that we are in the middle of a major civilization-wide paradigm shift. And the transformation we're going through, according to my research and the research of others in various fields like system theory and evolutionary biology and more, is that this transition is it's larger than the transition we did in the Industrial Revolution. Humanity has never faced this huge of a transition before. Previously, including the Industrial Revolution, we had shifted from one stage to the other. In this transition, since our technology has accelerated so fast, it is 3 or 4 stages ahead of our collective field of consciousness in control of power in the system. And then we have different pockets of where these structures are and operating. So we'll go into the structures later, but just to give you an idea, is the structures of consciousness are not only inside of us, but everything we create, our structure of consciousness is embedded in it. So our technologies are related to the structures of consciousness that created it. So our social systems are right now still at the rational industrial. It's the nation state. But the internet is a pluralistic, it's a stage up. It's global instead of nation-centric. And so our economic system and our communication systems are in this level. We're all using smartphones, and smartphones are actually integral technology. They integrate previously separate forms into a whole, which changes our structure of consciousness as we operate them. I'll go into that later. So basically, our analysis is that all of our problems are because of this gap between the evolution of our consciousness and the evolution of our technologies. And we're talking about a 3 to 4 stage gap in some areas. So part of the work that we've been doing lately is how do we accelerate the evolution of consciousness to catch up? And using media technologies, we discovered is probably the fastest way we can do it at scale, if it's possible. So that's foundation of why we created this course as well. So how do we do that? And real quick, the training of the perceptual field and its effect was not planned. When we first did this class, the first cohort, my intention was to train people how to transform others. But with the first cohort, everybody who went through it reported their own perceptual field becoming an object in their awareness. And the acceleration of their growth was observable in the evolution of the course. So then in each iteration of the course, we have evolved the process as a collective field. And so then the foundation is working with our own perceptual field. That's the second one. So the first one is evolutionary. And then the perceptual field is a foundation for it. And then transformational. So training you to become a human and media change agent. Next. And we use the notion of praxis, which is kind of this combination of trying to apply theory. That's what I was doing when I was experimenting with film theory and as a language and experimenting with it. That goes back to the tradition of Eisenstein, who was a filmmaker theorist who did the same. Francois Truffaut had done it. Jean-Luc Godard. There's a whole history in film anyways of this praxis work where you experiment through media, you discover potential kind of things, and then you experiment with that. It's all about this theory and praxis, but we also discovered that if you want to do embodied learning, you need this combination. And then we'll unpack that a little later about how we're combining head, heart, and gut, our three brains, which we're going to unpack soon. Next. All right, so the course methodology, just to give you real quick, we use perceptual field training, which includes meta theory, praxis, and cinematic expression practice, and perception practice. We try to also unpack human perception and imagination itself, and your inception process. And then we do the three-brain neural network neuroplasticity training. I know that's a lot, but basically, anytime we repeat something, an action, a thought, the more we repeat it, our brains actually start laying down different, more neural pathways, because it's determining a pattern, a repetition. So it's like when we're learning a new language or a skill, the reason why, as we practice it over and over again, and it becomes second nature, is because our brains have laid down new neural pathways to help us do that. And every structure of consciousness has its own neural pathway framework. So as we start to, like when we make our current structure of consciousness an object in our experience, the brain automatically starts seeking for the new neural pathways it's going to need to see what's beyond that. Then, and so what we do is the more you repeat it, the more it starts laying down these pathways. So we have daily perception practices. So every day you're kind of working with your perceptual field, trying to expand it. And while you're doing that, as you repeat it over and over again, your neural pathways are shifting to expand your perceptual field. And then the combination of the three brains. So real quick, when we learn something cognitively, it's in the mind brain, okay? The latest neurological research has shown us that our head, our heart, and our gut have neural processing centers that receive and send information to all three areas. So in essence, we have three brains. And each brain receives and communicates differently. And humanity has known this forever because we've always said, trust your heart, trust your gut. So they speak differently, but they also learn differently, and they have different forms of information for us. And the reason why lived experience is so powerful to change us, when we go through a trauma or something, it really kind of, we get it inside of our whole beingness. It's like when we have a New Year's resolution that we have in our minds, why it's so hard for us to do it is because it's just in the head brain. When we learn a theory, we could be, cognitively at these higher levels, but emotionally and at other lines of development, not. So by combining theory and practice, you trying to take what you're learning and put it into a manifest form as a project throughout is part of this. See, the heart brain speaks through emotions, and the gut brain is visceral. It's embodied. When we do something with our hands or with our body, that's how it learns. So if we go through a traumatic experience where we're trying to do something physically, emotionally, and mentally, that becomes the most powerful learning that we can have. But we could replicate it with media, and we'll unpack this further, but I just wanted to do that. So it's a combination, and then we do media praxis research of transformation, which is you'll be doing individual work with a team, and work with the whole collective of the class. And you'll not just be, with the individual project, your team will be offering you collective intelligence support. So you'll be bringing what you've been playing with and experimenting with in your questions. And then you'll be kind of helping each other through it. But you're also going to be researching your own process with your team. So you're going to try to discover what patterns you're going through that are unique to you, and which ones are actually a shared experience between all of you. And then at the end of each module, most of the modules, you're going to have the reverse classroom with the whole cohort, where you're going to bring in what you've learned as a team, both the unique and the universal. And this helps actually to train the collective intelligence field in a kind of very dynamic way, because it's combining the unique and universal patterning. And this helps to program the field to kind of achieve that instead of a learning community, it becomes a community that learns. Then we finally, an evolutionary collective intelligence media making praxis, again, way too much, but we combine evolutionary guidance work where we have practices for you to try to seek where you need to go, what you need to be doing right now from an evolutionary perspective of self and world. What is the, what is your own evolutionary flow, and what is the evolutionary flow of the world around you? This extends into learning how to work with the zeitgeist and different group fields and collective intelligence praxis. And then we talk about the collective self framework, which we've discovered is kind of the best framework to hold to be able to create the most transformative work. Again, we're going to unpack that some more. Next. So here's the course overview. Thank you, Jonathan. That's a time reminder for me. Okay. All right, basic overview. We have 1 week of orientation, which is, this is the opening, and then we have a Friday community of practice. Then we have 5 modules. Basically, the first one is theory and practice. So we give you a foundation, but also at the same time, we work with your own kind of wounds and your own kind of obstacles to be able to go into module 2, which is development, where you're going to be seeking inception. But before we can seek inception, we have to understand what our kind of constructs that are holding us back are, and kind of open ourselves up. And then we take inception and creating your intentional field and start into how that's going to translate into a story or into an idea. And then we take that idea into module 3 for the design, where you're going to unpack it and try to design it for the most powerful impact. And then the production module, where you're going to attempt to take what you've done and put it into practice. And it could be anything from even a shot on your smartphone and experimenting with different things. And we're going to give you different exercises you could do if you don't have your own project. But the key is to make sure you're trying to create some form, some manifest physical form. And then the reception process, where we're going to be sharing everything we've done and working with the process of reception. Next. So basically, 1 week orientation plus 5 3-week modules, 16 weeks. Each week has a weekly lecture and a weekly community of practice. You get weekly assignments and also daily perception practices. And you have an ongoing individual project. Now, real quick, you're not required to go hardcore, like do that. We recognize that a lot of you have busy lives and you may not be able to do it all. This is all there for you to do. And the more you do, obviously, the more impactful it'll be. But we found that even if you don't do everything, you will have an effect. So you do as much as you can, as much as you feel called to do. This is, so don't take this as, oh my God, I have to do all this. but this is kind of the design. And if you choose to dive in, you know, this is kind of there for you to really kind of shoot off into hyperspace. Anyways, next. All right, just to break it down real simply quick, the weekly patterns is, you know, the 3-week modules. Week 1 is kind of an overview lecture. Week 2 is an in-depth lecture session. Week 3 is the reverse classroom, where the teams bring in what they've learned. And through that process, we have the weekly community of practice sessions, where we kind of integrate the lecture and praxis processes. We work on transformative media, kind of CI, collective intelligence, kind of how to create that field for yourselves. We do individual project feedback, where you can bring a project or a problem you have or something into the collective field where we all work on it. And then we have time for a teamwork process where you break out into your teams. Next. All right, so basically the Praxis modalities are daily, weekly, and whole course. So the daily practice for your perceptual field training. And again, you could be doing these while you're doing anything. It could be 5-10 minutes, you know, or 2 minutes or 1 minute, you could do it. And then the weekly assignments, and then the course project, which is the whole thing. Now, the weekly assignments are not separate from your course project. They're taking you through the course project. Okay, so they're not separate. So in module 1, the weekly assignments will be oriented towards looking at your own shadow work and your own stuff that could be blocking you from receiving the creative flow, you know, that kind of thing. So it's all about that. Next. And then we give you a choice of tracks that you can choose from. You could come in with an established project and work with that. You could choose to do a media experiment. So for example, how do I use an image to move people from sadness to happiness? You know, and we'll give you some examples as well that you could play with. Then there is liminal media making, which is pure trying to tap into that intentional flow field for the whole thing. Yeah, trying to create that liminal space, co-create with the universe, and actually just kind of try to become a channel for whatever's going to flow through you. Media Shaman, which we kind of covered, which is you're trying to do this kind of self-healing, sharing that and trying to extend that outward. Then there's the holy encounter. So you could try to practice having a fellow classmate that you could both interview each other and try to do the I-thou field and experiment with that. You could do a collective intelligence project, which would be if you're part of a community or you want to support a community by making a promotion for them, right? And then you try to work with creating a shared intentional field and see how you could work with that form of media making. And then there's the integral form, which is you try to integrate different ones to try to see how integrating different approaches feels and work with. Okay, next. We do offer a certificate of completion, and all you have to do is complete a course project. And as I said, it could even be like 30 seconds. You know, you can even cut some stock footage. They have free stock footage or stock shots. Put them together and play with them, you know, no problem. Just as long as you have something to show and talk about, that you've tried to put some theory into practice here. And then you'll have to complete a course participant self-evaluation form, which is tell us what you've learned, how you've grown, you know, your own kind of what you got from this and what you want to, what's your edge, what's your leading edge, you know, what have you discovered, what have you learned? So that's all you have to do for the certificate. Next. Now, our Slack platform, it's actually a media praxis platform. So first of all, we're using Slack because after experimenting with various other platforms, this is the platform that most gives us the opportunity to practice perceptual field training while we're actually working with the class. Now, one of the things we discovered is going back to how the brain lays down neural pathways. When we're learning a new app, when we're becoming part and interacting with a social media platform, we are actually training our neural pathways to work in that field. So it is affecting our structures, our neural patterning. So to understand that really helps. Like, so when you're on Facebook and you've worked in Facebook for a long time, there's a lot of very kind of basic kind of things that you don't realize have now become internalized for you. So this platform offers the closest we found, and which is interesting, the intentional field from when we create something, either a film or a platform or, you know, a video game or a VR thing, our consciousness, once again, is going into it, and our target, who we're trying to create this for, right? What we're trying to do. And most other communication platforms have been created as some kind of a product to serve some kind of an audience. So when you get a platform like Discord, it was created for gamers to use for a specific purpose. They've expanded that now, but kind of the foundation of it is oriented around that intentional field and target, whereas Slack is unique. Slack actually was created by this company that was actually creating a product for something else. And the people inside Slack were having trouble communicating with it. They really wanted to find a way to create a communication form that would help them work as a team faster and better, and to create a collective intelligence field. So here you have, and then their product ended up failing. And people kept saying, well, dudes, you know, your communication platform is awesome, you know? So it was kind of like, so that intention is embedded in this platform. Now, it was oriented towards a team creating a single project, but there is hacks available that we've kind of worked out where we could have it for our purposes. So we'll go into that. But real quick, what's my time here? Oh, I got to do it. Basically, if you look over here at the image, at the far left, those boxes you see are different workspaces. So if you are in 3 or 4 different Slack communities, they will be there. And ours is like one of those boxes. Then you go into the navigation panel. And now the first grouping, which is here on the right side, you'll have all unreads, all direct messages, mentions and reactions, saved items, channel browser, file browser, and people in user groups. Now, what these are is actually ways of tapping into the whole collective field from different perspectives. When you enter Slack and you go to the all unreads, every new expression is in a stream. You could read them fully in that stream and respond to them fully in that stream. So you actually have a collective field stream to work with. And we recommend you always start there. Now that's a hack that we're going to tell you how to make sure that you have it. And actually some of these have to be hacked in, but it's really easy. And online we have instructions how to do that. So, and then the all direct messages, again, every message that's coming to you with the mentions and reactions. It's you then take what's coming in the field and then see the interactions you had in that field. And then the saved items are the things in that field that you saved that you want to come back to. So you see how you're working with a collective stream up in here. And then the channel browser, file browser, and the people and users is how you could search for things in those areas into the field. So, you know, what are there any channels that I'm not seeing? Or like, you know, I remember someone posted a file. Where is it? You go to the file browser, all files are there, you know, and you learn about the people and users. Now, the apps channel you don't have to work with, but then we have the communication fields, which is the channels and the direct messages. Now those are, inside of those are the actual streams of the course, the individual fields next. All right, so in the big all caps thing that says channels, you have the communication channels, and we've got them organized. If you're in integral theory, you can see the quadrants, but we'll go into that later. So first thing is 0, which is the onboarding instructions about the hacks. that you want to do first thing. Then number ones are all the course material spaces. So you have the calendar and schedule, you have the course materials, you have the faculty office and tech support. So that's kind of like, you know, the kind of the foundational stuff, you know, the kind of technical stuff.
The objective reality of the course, in a way.
Then we have number two channels that start with the number two are the community-wide channels. So the community circles is where we kind of throw everything out into the community field. And the community of practice is where we do our online work connected with our community of practice. And three is the smaller community fields. It's your teams. And that's where you're going to be doing your teamwork. Number four is your individual channels, and each of you will have one where you will kind of share your project and what you're going through. And what we want you to do is kind of really kind of try to get a feel for these different kind of perceptual field spaces. When we're doing our own stuff and sharing it with others, then when we're working in a team, then when we're speaking to the whole community. So just once again, bringing to your awareness these different states of being that we move through. Next. So these are the main hacks, and this is in the onboarding channel with fairly easy instructions. Again, I talked about the navigation channels, making sure you have those all there and you start using them. Then there's a hack called reply in thread. Now, one of the kind of drawbacks to Slack is that it was originally designed as a high-speed messaging thing that you can't really have in-depth conversations, because when you hit the enter button by default, it posts it automatically. But if you do this hack, well, I'm sorry, it's the wrong one. Excuse me. There's two hacks here. So the reply in thread is when you want to reply to somebody's post, you have to go up to the right-hand corner and click on reply in thread. And what that does is it creates a space where you can have an in-depth conversation connected to a single topic or a single post. Now, if you don't do that, what you'll have to do is when you're posting and replying, your reply could be 3 to 4 messages away from the one you were replying to. And then people have to try to search. What that does is it slows down the collective intelligence field. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to nurture that field by having the space where we're not creating chaos in the field, so we could move through them quickly, and then if we want to go deeper, we can go deeper. And then to start a new line, I started this one. When we start a new line, when we do this hack, instead of every time we hit enter, it'll post it. Every time we hit enter, it'll give us a new paragraph. So we can actually write a long form message. Now, all of these.
Those are settings that you'll set.
Yeah, it's really easy settings, but once you set them, you don't have to worry about them. Next. All right, so this is kind of the overview, and we're at orientation week. Next week will be module 1. Next. These are the orientation week assignments. You'll be receiving these in an email right after the class. So it's really simple stuff this week. You're going to be receiving the 3-brain, 4-quadrant perception practice that if you can do it once a day, that'll help get you started. You want to go online, you want to complete your profile and photo, and then you want to do the hacks. And then what we want you to do is introduce yourself and tell us who you are and why you're here and all that. Here's the instructions. And then you want to do that in your individual channel. Then you want to share that in the community circle and add a message to it, speaking to the collective. So you just want to play with this, writing for your individual channel, then sharing that and framing it for the collective field. And then that's it. Then watch Black Panther if you haven't seen it, because we're going to be using that a lot. Watch the film I made, which is my vision quest at the AFI, and you'll have the link to that. And if you haven't already seen, it's not the 10 keys anymore. It's keys to more powerful media. These are very short, 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And they'll just give you a kind of a foundation. And then there will be the quadrants and the structures, just kind of a quick overview, especially for people who are not into integral theory yet. Okay, that's it, right?
Yep. And also, I think I sent everybody the article, sort of introductory article about the integral, what is integral, the integral approach. And that's a phenomenal article, just kind of to ground you in that world a bit.
Yeah. You could take off that, right? Now, once again, I run late, but I keep working on that. So that's the download. We're going to be here for a little longer. If people want to ask questions, it'll be recording it. If you have questions in the chat stream, we'll, if we can respond to those online, we'll try to do that too.
So we're open for questions. I also want to just welcome the people who showed up a little later that we didn't have a chance to say hello to you, but hello, Kirsten and Karen and Tapua.
Oh, and right now, if you're already registered for the course, after this session, you're going to receive the link for this recording, the chat log. You'll also be receiving access to the Slack channel as well. And remember that Friday is the COP at 12 noon.
So the links to those two, to your film and Black Panther, where are those going to be?
In your handout, that'll be with the video.
Black Panther, I think, is on Amazon, and we have it'll say where it's available to watch.
Okay.
It's a big Marvel superhero film, and Mark's film is actually online at the Integral Cinema Project YouTube, but there'll be a link to that as well.
Okay.
And to the 10 Keys videos, or the Keys videos.
Or Keys. Yes.
Jonathan and Mark, can I just also say to those who joined to find out more today, and if they want to know more, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can get hold of me if you have any additional questions, more practical questions outside as well. I want to.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, well, I guess we can wrap up this session. Thank you, everybody. Can people still hear me? I feel like I lost my sound.
No, we can hear
Oh,
you.
good. Everyone's just very silent.
Here.
You're all stunned into silence by the genius and brilliance you've heard so far. That's fantastic.
Exactly, that's what it was.
And yeah, I was just
You're
mentioning
muted.
we do have a number of people here who've taken the class before. So if any of you have anything to add, you're welcome to. Gina was in the first cohort, and Tom and Lynn and Rena and Blake were in the second cohort.
Well, I'll add, having been in the second one already, this is so much better. There's so many things like just the introduction to Slack, which we didn't really get last time, and that you're using Slack. It's this 3.0 is what an upgrade. Congratulations, you guys are doing amazing stuff. And now that I have a project or two to bring, that'll be also different. But you've really upgraded it, and I'm really no longer the philosopher. Okay.
Well, one of the things we'll be talking about in the course is the idea of synchronization of the senses, which is to use all of the different expressive tools in anything you do. And once you start thinking that way, then it's annoying when you go to like schools and you realize, why aren't the walls painted in a color that's conducive to learning? Why aren't the chairs laid out in a way that's conducive to learning? Why aren't all the potential expressive tools for that purpose put in? And so what Mark has been doing and learning from all of you guys is, oh, we have more expressive tools we could have been using. Oh, Slack actually has more power to design it. And if we design each of those elements in a conscious way, they reinforce the message of upgrading your consciousness so you can see these different levels, the individual, the group, the community, the collective. So that's what that's really all about. And that's what that perception practice too is, just to train you to look at the quadrants. So what's going on inside my head? What's going on around me? What are the systems that I'm not even aware of that are happening? What's the relation and cultural field that I'm not aware of?
And we're trying to do it in an embodied way, not just in our head brain.
And if you're not registered and you want to register, you can certainly get in touch with Giselle or Gina or Anna, the finance fairy at Campus Co-Evolve. And
I just want to say to our previous members here, thank you, because this work has evolved because of you guys. So I mean, once again, when you do work in a collective field, it's so much more powerful. And we all kind of learn and grow and contribute. So if you're taking this course or you want to take this course, you will be part of this adventure. And we also, once you complete the course, you get to be invited into our ongoing community of practice that is free. And then we just support each other's work as we move forward.
So I just want to say too, along with your 3.0 being very different, since last March, was it, that I started with you, along with Jeremy's courses and getting very good Gibsarian especially. I've done warm data training. I've done collective presencing, all these collective intelligence fields and glass bead game. And so I've changed a lot too. And I'm now in these multiple group fields where there's this crossover. Anna Margulis is in here. I wasn't expecting her to be there. I knew Jeremy would be. So they're all interconnecting more and more too, which is creating an amazing synergy. I don't think just for me, but I'm experiencing that individually.
I mean, what's happening, in this kind of shift we're going through, there's a lot of explorers out there kind of coming at from all the different angles and sharing it with each other and all that. We're honored to have Jeremy here, who is also one of these explorers. So it's great to have you here, and looking forward to your kind of contributions to the field as well. And so, yes, I mean, and I've been learning from, from Jeremy, from George Poor, here, and from Nora, who's amazing work, So we are, and one of the things that George is doing with Campus Co-Evolve is trying to have a place where we can all kind of come together and help each other, and kind of like collectively help humanity, reach the other side of this, this great evolutionary shift, a great challenge we face.
Yeah, I keep saying to all these groups, if anything's going to save our ass, it's this kind of thing that's happening now. From total systems collapse and that dystopian future we've seen way too much of. So now it's time for solar punk.
Well, as Buckminster Fuller said a long time ago, the race, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember exactly, but the race to dystopia, or the race between dystopia and, I don't think he said utopia, but the other side will be neck and neck until the end. And we could feel that. We have so much. I mean, the technologies are pushing us into a realm where, I mean, we could actually have these amazing kind of, realities. But there's an equal race to the opposite. And so really it's up to us individually and collectively. And one of the things that a lot of us in our kind of explorer group are recognizing, there's a few kind of patterns that seem to be part of this other side of the field. Eisenstein said that you can't solve a problem in the consciousness that created it. Einstein, sorry. Oops, thank you. Yeah. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so, the work of Nora helps us understand that we have to enter this liminal space and let go of all of our constructs, but we also have to kind of make sure we're not bringing the past with us, which is very hard because those constructs are in each of us. And then we have to find that other way, this way behind everything we know, and so that's a lot of us explorers are kind of like doing that. And one of the patterns that seems to be a consensus is that collective intelligence will be playing a major role. And also decentralization appears to be something that is kind of part of this shift. So now here we're experimenting with new ways of media making, including liminal and including the collective intelligence processing. So this is a wild frontier, but we're trying to kind of play the edge as many of us are.
So I posted my email in the chat for anyone who's not signed up already. If you want to, Tapiwa or Henrik or Kirsten, we'd love to see you guys.
But so did Dean as well. So
perfect.
Either one we could do.
And if you guys want to save the chat, those of you who are not signed up, you can just right click on the little dots and hit save chat, and then you can have the whole chat of this meeting.
But you will be receiving it in the email as well.
Yeah, if you're signed up, if you're registered.
If you're signed up, that's right.
Yeah, this will probably be posted publicly, this first class as well. So and then starting on Friday, we'll have a community of practice where those of you who signed up will all get to know one another a little bit better, and we'll go over some of the basics. talk about some stuff, and we look forward to that. And thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing this and for teaching all of us. It's really great to be together.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jonathan.
guys.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody, I
Cheers,
have to say,
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
stay safe, stay well, stay awake.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.